Well, I think that, and when it comes to quality, our third movie compared to the rest is Untouchable.
Yes. Is it? Yeah. Yeah, The Untouchables.
So Daniel, you found us a video that basically went over the historical accuracy of this movie, and I think it would be fair to say that this movie is almost entirely made up, except for the fact that there were two men named Elliot Ness and Al Capone who in Chicago at some point in the 30s who did not care for each other.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is not the most this is not the most historically accurate movie. Although I will say, for anybody out there, if that bothers you, you can view this movie more as an adaptation of the old television show than being an historical movie.
Right, since they were both based on the highly questionable life story of given by uh, Elliot Ness
Yes.
when he was a washed-up drunk whose wife had left him.
Yeah.
An ironic end for the guy who helped bring down the biggest rum runner of all time.
Yeah. um, yeah. So the Untouchables. This movie takes place in 1930, during at the height of Prohibition, which was, you know, our native country, the United States, has made a lot of has done a lot of great things throughout its history. It's also made a lot of mistakes. Prohibition, I would say, is right up there with in terms of one of the biggest mistakes. Which, for those of you who don't know, it prohibited the sale and consumption of alcohol.
Not the consumption necessarily. You just
Not just the
like
sale. Yeah.
here's the thing. There were apparently some like private clubs in like for rich people that had existing alcohol stockpiles that were allowed. I think they were like allowed to provide alcohol as part of their membership benefits, but they couldn't like sell it directly. So they're kind of
Okay.
working off of their pre-prohibition reserves.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like there were ways around it, and there's like
yeah.
there's certain types of there was some type of alcohol that was produced in Chicago. Let's see, what was it called? Let's see here.
Well, a lot of people made their own alcohol.
Oh, oh sure,
Yeah, like my great grandfather did that.
but I'm there's like this particular type. It's like mol something, m something. Basically, it
Yeah.
was designed for this guy who had killed his taste buds drinking or smoking and eating too many cigars.
Oh, eating. Oh,
And he uh, he ha- he had a custom alcohol made for him that he could actually taste. I was told that this stuff was not actually controlled during Prohibition because, like, if you're getting drunk on this stuff,
yeah,
then God bless you.
yeah.
But yeah, so and the movie starts off. I will say that this thing is who's the director of this one again?
It was Brian De Palma.
Yeah, De Palma was definitely doing some experimental and clever things with the directing in this movie. So
Yeah.
like the opening shot is a front like a top down perspective of Al Capone just having his just being barbered,
Yeah.
and what it really emphasized. Well, first off, it was a very long shot just to give you time to read the it's 1930 prohibition has been in effect da, 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 da.
Yeah.
But it also just gave you a sense of like he was off to the left hand side of it and like, there were so many people all around him. It just gave you a sense of how important this mobster was.
Yeah. Yeah. And the I kind of want to point out real quick. Capone's played by Robert De Niro, and when they started filming the movie, De Niro actually tracked down Al Capone's tailor, and he had his tailor make all of the same suits and clothes that Capone wore, right down to his underwear. So, good for those of you who don't, De Niro is a real method actor, so he really needs to get into the part. Yeah, um, yeah, and yeah, you get as DB said, you get a sense of how important he is, and there's even a point in there where the guy's giving him a shave, and he accidentally cuts him, and he kind of looks at him like you could tell he wanted to bust him up, but he just kind of wipes the blood on the guy's shirt.
right? Because he there are the news media is around interviewing him, so he has to keep up appearances, which is that is like a just nice summation of the character. He's like a savage who tries to have good publicity.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Um,
which is accurate. Capone did like operate soup kitchens and stuff with his ill-gotten gains.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and then we cut to what I'll call like a maybe like a I think it was a pharmacy where
Yeah,
yeah where this one of Capone's guys is trying to shake down the owner, and the owner's like not having it, and then
right. I'm not going to buy your bad beer.
yeah uh, and then this little girl that was there getting looked like she was getting like milk or something for the family, and then you see one of the guys left their briefcase behind, and kaboom.
Yeah, and she gets taken out.
Yeah,
This incident did not actually happen, but
no,
boy, um, if you're trying this movie is very good at manipulating you. Is the way I'll
yeah, it
put it.
is. Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. um
And it also has a very it has a very mob movie type of morality to it, in the sense that a lot of mob movies are very much about like that. Like, there's no necessarily white or black. This is almost more presented as like the law is on Ness's side, but he keeps having to break more and more of his own internal compass to be effective.
right, yeah. Yeah, and Ness is played by Kevin Costner, and he kind of has to break all of that stuff because number one, like he can't trust anybody on the police force because most of them are all on Capone's payroll.
Yeah,
And
the
that, yeah,
corruption runs deep.
yeah, and so he wants to work inside the law, but he realizes he has to kind of work outside of the law. And so after a failed raid, he meets Sean Connery's character, Jim Malone. And by the Connery, by the way, won an Oscar for this movie.
Well deserved.
Yeah. And Ness kind of recognizes that Malone is he's an honest cop because they kind of have this little back and forth on the bridge where where Malone looks at Ness and says, well, why would you claim to be something that you're not? They were kind of having this. It was kind of like an honesty kind of lesson, if you will. And also too, I'll be generous. I'll guess Malone's probably in his probably mid-50s, and he's still a beat
Yeah,
cop.
yeah. He's yeah. As he put it when Ness was trying to recruit him, I wish I'd met you when I was 10 years and 20 pounds lighter.
Yeah, yeah,
Or no, 10 years and 20 pounds ago.
yeah. um, but but he still ends up going to work for Ness, and then you also have this other FBI agent that joins him, Oscar Wallace, who's played by Charles Martin Smith, who we saw in American Graffiti. He's the kind of nerdy guy who was trying to buy booze and pick up the that one hot blonde.
I guess he figured himself out via time travel.
Yes, he did.
Trying to
Yeah,
make up for past mistakes.
yeah,
Fight, fighting booze instead of contributing to degeneracy.
yeah,
Uh,
yes,
and then they have a cool thing that apparently did sort of happen, which was they recruited straight from the police academy because, like, hey, if they're still in the academy, they're not going to be corrupt.
right, yeah,
And they get Stone, who's like their best gunman.
Yeah, and he's played by Andy Garcia, which is kind of funny because you got a Cuban actor who's playing an Italian character.
Yeah, it's all basically the same, right?
Well, yeah, yeah.
At least according to Hollywood. Look. Uh, if if you could have a French guy play a Scotsman in Highlander, while while our Scotsman played a Egyptian who
Yeah.
named Ramirez. 80s Hollywood was wild, man. And and speaking of trends at the time, this movie is definitely in the same sort of. It's like an outgrowth of the same sort of tough on crime, but like you have to be outside the law thought process that brought us movies like Death Wish, comic book characters like The Punisher. It's definitely about like how far do you go to punish the guilty?
Yes, yeah. Um, yeah, and of course they're branded the Untouchables because they had an alderman shows up trying to bribe Ness, and Ness just kicks him out of there.
Yeah, just we'll have none of it.
Yeah, um, yeah, and so the movie has a lot of kind of the great. It's got a lot of the great one-liners or
Hmm.
quotable lines. Like the you put one of the, they put one of yours in the hospital, you put one of theirs in the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
If they bring a knife, you bring a gun.
Yeah, yeah. um, and yeah, it's it's very much a I mean, if you take away from the historical part of it and you look at it from the lens of a crime drama, it's very well done.
Yes, the action escalates. There's a nice progression as Capone becomes more and more aware of these guys and becomes more desperate to take them down as they are getting close to him.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah.
Because just like in real life, they couldn't ever prove that they could never prove that Capone's money was coming from illegal sources. They could never prove that he actually ordered any of the killings he ordered, but they could prove that he had failed to put, file his taxes for his ill-gotten gains.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and that's the crux of the movie is once they figure out that, like, oh, he hasn't been paying taxes, that's when they go and find his bookkeeper and find the ledger, which of course is in this other, like, other decipherable, like, code or whatever. But they're like, oh yeah, but they convinced the bookkeeper to cooperate. Yeah,
Yep. So I think this movie's in a weird place where it's almost as old as we are.
hmm,
So it's hard to, but it's also like that, which means it's old enough that a lot of people probably haven't seen it necessarily. So just because of the quality of it, I'm going to put our spoiler firewall right here.
yeah,
Um, so, or I should say, not maybe not right here. Let's talk a little bit about some more non-spoiler thoughts. Performance-wise, I'm just going to say it. I'm not the biggest Kevin Costner fan. I think this is the third thing we've reviewed with him in it in a prominent way.
yes, yeah,
The other ones being his Horizon, his self-indulgent Horizon movie that his character was actually kind of a bit player in ultimately.
yeah. Yeah, and then the second one being Waterworld, which neither of us cared for.
Yeah, it was thoroughly okay. Fell apart in the execution.
Yeah,
I don't know. Just for some reason, the way he delivers his lines just doesn't do it for me. I actually kind of kept thinking that I'd almost rather have Tom Hanks as the sort of golly gee gosh police officer early on. And then towards the end of the movie, as he started doing more hard bit, and I was saying, okay, now seems more like the character.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. The beginning, he's very much a Boy Scout, and then yeah, and yeah, by the end of the movie, he's a hardened lawman.
Yeah, and I think that maybe part of the mismatch was that he did a better job playing the hardened lawman than playing the Boy Scout. Because playing the Boy Scout, it felt like he was too earnest, too trustworthy.
Yeah, yeah,
It didn't really fit him, but I got used to him by the end.
yeah.
Meanwhile, Sean Connery, boy, late 80s, early 90s Sean Connery in a movie with anybody in an action role is unfair because he just acts circles around whatever younger actor he's paired with.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, whether it's Kevin Costner here or Alec Baldwin in Red October, which we reviewed a couple weeks ago. Yeah, that's very true.
His character is amazing. There's an extended sequence where you're seeing it from somebody else's perspective, and by this time you love the character so much that you're just really worried for him. And I go, come on, turn around, turn around.
Yeah.
He's following you, turn around.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as I mentioned before, that this is very well directed. There's a bunch of like fun little references. The big one I caught was again, this movie is made up, and apparently they repurposed this scene in a train station where Ness has to save a child in a baby carriage uh,
Yeah.
from a different movie he was shooting that they just didn't have time for. Uh, and
Yeah.
so it was a reference to the old Soviet movie, the Battleship Potemkin.
Yeah.
So like, if you see a movie with like a tall staircase with a baby carriage like falling or going down the stairs, that's what that's referring to.
Yeah. Yeah, De Palma has a very unique style to him. That one shot where it's kind of like this weird perspective where the character is like really close to the camera, and then the person's kind of a little further away.
Mm-hmm.
He does that, like he does that trick in like every single one of his movies. He did
So,
that in
so I was gonna say, if you're a Philistine like me, what else has he done?
uh, well, let's see. He did well before this movie. He directed Carrie.
Okay.
He did Dress to Kill, Scarface, uh,
Okay.
and then after this, he directed the very first Mission Impossible.
Okay.
Yeah. He's in that same auteur filmmaker club with like Spielberg and Lucas and Scorsese, Coppola. Yeah.
Gotcha. So part of that 70s revolution in Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this movie was just very interesting to watch. Because
Yeah.
not like a lot of scenes were not very predictable, which is like I should say the way scenes were shot was not always predictable, and the action definitely hit home. You worried for characters even if you knew historically that they survived out of the 30s.
Yeah. 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 But yeah, this is. I mean, I think the one negative we both have is the film's score.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there were some 80s isms that just did not match.
Yeah.
The closest I can think of to something more contemporary would be like how 10 years ago they would have tried to mix dubstep in with everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where it's like a more period appropriate soundtrack would have probably been better.
Yeah. Yeah. They were definitely trying to go like experimental with that film score, and it just certain scenes the music didn't match the the scene, like like the raid up in at the Canadian border. They were playing the orchestral score, which didn't really fit with that scene. It fit more with like the opening credits.
Yeah. Let's hear
Yeah.
who did this music for this. So I looked them up.
It's
It
Italian,
was
wasn't he?
Ennio Morricone,
Yeah.
who is known for well, he did. Of course, he's known. Of course, he's known for the Untouchables. Come on,
Yeah.
IMDb, be helpful.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
he did a bunch of yeah. That's so. What's funny about him is that he died many years ago, but his music is still so. Actually, I guess 2020. His music is still sampled all over the place, so his IMDb is a bit of a mess because people borrow stuff from his old Western movies and places.
Okay.
Uh, I want to say he did the Fistful of Dollars movies, but I'm not sure. Could be mistaken.
Finally.
Let's see.
Uh, the other thing too,
He did Two Girls, One Cup the show. Wait, there was a Two Girls, One Cup the show?
oh, what? Oh, I didn't need to hear that. I didn't want to know that.
Okay, yeah, he did do the good, the bad, the ugly. So I guess his career
Okay.
balances out.
Yeah.
Uh, Actually, what I almost guarantee is that he did do Navajo Joe, because I kept hearing like similarities to this soundtrack from that one.
Ah, yeah.
I couldn't find him before, but yeah, the good, the bad, the ugly. I definitely could hear that carry through, but yeah, he kind of got too experimental and out there for his own good in this one.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention real quick is the writing was really well done. The writer on the movie is David Mamet, who did Glengarry Glen Ross.
Okay, you know what? I can see that, or I should say, I can hear that now that you mentioned that, because it
Yeah,
is very sort of snappy, rough dialogue.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is I think both of us enjoy this movie very much. I'd seen it a few times before, but I actually I hadn't watched it in about 10 or 15 years, so this was a nice pick. Yeah,
Yeah, this was my first time with it,
yeah.
and I quite enjoyed myself. You know, every time I watch one of these mobster movies, I learn new and interesting slurs for Italians. So there you go.
Yeah. Ooh.
Whereas growing up in the part of the country I lived in, I didn't even know there were slurs for Italians.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I did say like we're gonna firewall some spoiler thoughts. But yeah, okay. You know what? I didn't get very much sleep last night, so I might have overthought it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say that there really aren't any. There isn't. I don't feel the need to go into the plot in enough detail to spoil it. It's just like
Yeah.
we've basically explained the progression of the movie. Again, like it's a historical movie. I usually say be true to the history, but in this case, I'll allow it just because it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed, yes. Although I will say one kind of spoilery ish one I will give, given the that it's not very historically accurate and just a warning for people. There is one character in the movie who meets his end, not in a way that he did in real life. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. This movie and the Untouchables TV show itself might have overemphasized Elliot Ness's importance and downplayed another character.
Yes, yeah. Um,
Which what was the name of the channel you recommended or that you found the video from?
Joe Blow.
I would say watch this first, then watch Joe Blow and realize just how much fun they had with the history in this one.
Yeah.
Um, Daniel, from your opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10, where one is a dry history documentary with exquisite sourcing,
Yeah.
and 10 is Gladiator having them restore the Roman Republic, where would you put this one's realism?
Probably about nine, nine and a
Okay.
half.
Yeah. Okay. So it's almost up there with ahistorically restoring the Roman Republic from the Empire.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So don't. So if you're the type to get bent out of shape about that, I don't know, man. Go watch Pain and Gain. That was actually pretty true to the history.
Yes, it was. Yeah, yeah. Or as I said before, just think of it as an adaptation of the TV show.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we've said all we need to say.
Don't need to touch that anymore.
Yeah.